Hey folks, my name is DJ Roller. I'm a mandolin player and a music teacher from here in Richmond, Virginia. Thanks for watching the video. Please consider giving us a like and a subscribe, and check out the Patreon. Thanks. In this video, I'll talk about major triads, minor triads, diminished triads and chords, and augmented triads. And I'm going to explain how it relates to the bluegrass mandolin. So stick around to the end. To talk about triads, we're going to use the G major scale. Up first, we have the G major triad. When played together, their harmonies create a G major chord. When they are played consecutively, they are considered an arpeggio. That would be the first, third, and fifth scale degree. Sounds like this. The order of the consecutive notes has no contextual reference to what chord it is, meaning if you played a 3-note triad consecutive phrase, that would be considered an arpeggio, similar to what's shown here with a B, a D, and a G. It would also be considered a G major. This concept would also be applied to how chords are structured. This is a music theory concept called inversions. This is a pretty simple concept to grasp, although it does have some more advanced applications. So I'm not going to go any much further into inversions. It's just nice to know that you don't have to start with the 1 and end with the 5. Next, we have minor triads. So the easiest way to think about this is to take the major triad and then change it. The only thing you need to do to the major triad to achieve a minor triad is flatten the third scale degree from a B to a B flat. And it sounds like this. After that, we have diminished triad / chords. I'm going to provide both of them because it's kind of only half the story to only tell you about the diminished triad. The altercations to the major triad would be a flattened third, similar to a minor triad, and a flattened fifth. Due to the symmetrical nature of diminished chords, there are 4-note harmonies for diminished. It's almost impossible to play the full voicing of this 4-note chord on the mandolin. So really we need to figure out what makes this diminished sound happen. And my favorite way to think about that is taking a G major scale and all the notes in between those notes and laying them out on a number line, as shown here. The note that is directly in the middle is known as the tritone. Because we can't voice the entire diminished chord, really what we're going to end up playing looks something like this, which is just a root, a tritone, and an octave root. So this diminished chord voicing is not even a triad. This is what the chord sounds like. And this is what it sounds like arpeggiated. And the last triad we're going to talk about is going to be augmented triads. To achieve the augmented triad, you're just going to sharpen the 5. This is what it sounds like arpeggiated. For us to talk about how mandolin triads relate to bluegrass, let's talk about Bill Monroe and his G major chop chord. Let's take a second and analyze and figure out which notes are which and how it lays out on the mandolin fretboard. Actually, what did Bill do to the G major chord that's different? Well, if you look at how a G major is typically taught in every beginner mandolin book, shown here on the left, versus what Bill Monroe's G major chop chord was, shown on the right. Visually, it's pretty clear. There's some large structural differences between the two chord shapes. So if we start with open G major that is taught in most beginner mandolin books, you'll see that there are two G notes 2 octaves apart that enclose the 2 harmony notes. This inversion of a G major chord is the closest thing we have to a full voicing on the mandolin of a G major chord. But this is even still an inversion. A G major played on a piano would ascend with a G, a B, then a D, as seen here. If we look back at that G major chord, the B and the D are inverted. Now when we go back and we look at Monroe's chop chord, things look a little bit differently, because we have 2 types of double stops really. On one side you have the root and the 3rd, and on the other side of the chop chord you have the root and the 5th. Those 2 double stop patterns are very prevalent in a lot of bluegrass mandolin. The other chord shape, because it is an inversion, can also be split into 2 double stop patterns. The biggest issue with how these chord inversions are laid out is they are misleading. Yes, they both do have the full voicing of the chord, but they are not in a linear pattern. Meaning, if we wanted to play a linear triad or a consecutive triad, also known as an arpeggio, the pattern would have to look a little bit different than the way it does with these chord shape patterns. This would be a 1st octave G ascending arpeggio. This would be a 2nd octave ascending G arpeggio. Based on the information given earlier in the video, you should be able to find a minor arpeggio and diminished arpeggios pretty easily now. In previous videos, I've talked about 3-note harmonies for the major scales, but harmonies can be extended to 4 notes and even longer, and when you make those extensions, triads can be found in chords that you may not have seen before, as shown here. Unfortunately, these charts are very good visual cues, but instruments like the mandolin are not necessarily as linear as that chart will lay out, so you'll have to familiarize yourself with the circle of fifths to get the best use. If you are enjoying this content, please consider subscribing to the Patreon. There's different levels. There's a tip jar level. There's membership levels. You get discounts on lessons, and you get all these visual cues to use. You can also interact with me if you need something. So yeah, thanks for watching the video. Please come back and watch another.